In this video, we're going to talk about the elements of SOAPSTone. Be sure you're taking notes on a notes template either while you watch the video or afterwards. You can go back through the video and take some notes that you can submit then to Canvas. SOAPSTone is a way to evaluate the author, purpose, and message of a nonfiction text, and we use SOAPSTone whenever we encounter a nonfiction text. Will it work with a fictional text? Yeah, it'll be fine, but most of the time we're going to use this for our nonfiction stuff. The first S stands for subject, and that's just the general topic or content of the text. Now notice I wrote 1 to 3 words. That means you're going to be looking for something really basic to sum up what this article is about. For instance, if you're looking at the Declaration of Independence, well, maybe your subject is just independence or independence from Great Britain. Maybe you're reading a magazine article about college athletics. Then your subject would just be athletics, something really basic. The O stands for occasion, which is really just a fancy word for context, and this is what I remember more about the O. It's just the context of the writing. It's the time in which it was written, the place, the historical and cultural atmosphere, what was going on at the time. So let's look at this example. For instance, what is the context of the Declaration of Independence? Well, the year or the time was 1776. The place was the new American colonies, or what was soon to be the United States. The historical and cultural atmosphere, well, we just had the Revolutionary War where the American colonies fought for independence from Great Britain. And the cultural atmosphere, you might imagine there's a lot of angst, right? Where you have a bunch of colony members who want to separate from Great Britain, being mad about being taxed without any representation. So that is leading them to want to become completely independent from Great Britain. All of that leads to the situation that provoked these writers to write, that provoked the Founding Fathers to write out the Declaration of Independence. So when you're thinking of occasion, it's more the context of the text. The A stands for audience, and that's the group or multiple groups of readers to whom the piece is directed. So we would consider gender, we would consider age, education level, ethnicity, geographic region, tons of other descriptors we could look at. Let's think about the Declaration of Independence. Who was it written for? What was their gender? Well, probably men who were in power in Great Britain. Age, probably older, like let's say, 40s. Education level, probably a pretty high level of education, right? If you're talking to the king of Great Britain. Geographic region, we can actually write in Britain here. Or think about something like 17 magazine. What is the gender? That's probably directed towards females. Age, probably ages, 14 to 20-ish. Education level would probably be high school and college level. So you can see how that changes based on the text. The audience changes based on what the text purpose is. And that leads us into one of the most important elements of SOAPSTone. The P is for purpose, and that is the reason that the author wrote the text. We're going to spend a lot of time thinking about author's purpose, especially in American literature. The big question we're going to be asking is, what does the author, what does he or she want to have happen as a result of your reading, or as a result of the audience reading this text? And I want you to think about starting like this. The purpose of the text is to blank. And then you might fill it in with some kind of a verb. Inform, persuade, entertain, satirize, whatever it might be. Let's go back to our Declaration of Independence example. The purpose is to persuade Great Britain to let the colonies be free. Something like that. The second S stands for speaker, and if you switch around subject and speaker, it's perfectly fine. But for speaker, you're looking at who is the voice behind the text. So what do you know about this author from reading it? What is the author's gender? What is the author's background? What is the author's ethnicity? What is the author's age? What is the author's religion? Whatever it is that might seem important to this text. And tone, well, tone stands for tone. That is just the author's attitude toward the subject. And you might start thinking about what kinds of words reveal how the author feels about the subject. Is he or she writing to praise an idea, or is he or she writing to criticize an idea, Does this person seem happy about the subject or upset about the subject or sarcastic about the subject? And we might pay attention to the way that tone changes in different sections of the text as well. Now we're going to do some practice. So I have this Got Milk ad on the left side of the screen, and it features Batman. Remember that S stands for either subject or speaker. It doesn't matter which one you tackle first, and because I have a really good clue, I'm going to do speaker first. So I see that my clue is Body by Milk, and I even have a website, bodybymilk.com, where I could go and I could figure out way more details about the speaker. I could figure out their CEO. I could figure out the average age of their employees, where they're located, maybe what their purpose is or what their mission statement is. So that's going to be my speaker. Next, I'm going to look at occasion. And remember that occasion is just a fancy word for context. So I need to figure out the time, the place, and the historical and cultural atmosphere. Well, I see right here that it is advertising The Dark Knight in theaters July 18th. Well, that was the month of July in the year 2012. So that's going to be my time. Let's say place is USA, right? I could be anywhere in the US, but I also found this ad on the internet. It probably also existed in a couple of magazines, and maybe it was also on a billboard or something. So that would be part of the context. The historical atmosphere would be right before the release of The Dark Knight. Now I have to think about the audience. Who is this ad geared towards? Well, you'd think that if it was advertising for the movie The Dark Knight, you would be advertising to moviegoers. Probably a lot of people are going to want to see this movie. You might also think about Batman enthusiasts, people who have read the comic books, who have watched the cartoons, who have seen all the other movies. You might also look at some of the other text that's available in this ad, and you'll see that it says, research suggests milk's unique mix of nutrients can help athletes recover after exercise. Well, what athlete doesn't want to recover after exercise? So I actually have a lot of options here. I have athletes, I have moviegoers, I have Batman enthusiasts, anyone else that you can think of who would be somehow sponsored or spurred by this ad to go drink some milk. Next, I need to analyze the purpose of this text, this ad. Well, I did a little bit of reading on this text that's down here, right? It says protein can help build muscles, so train hard and drink low-fat or fat-free milk because the Batmobile isn't the only thing that needs to refuel. I need to refuel too, right? And all of the audience members need to refuel. So I would say the purpose of this text is to encourage people to use milk as a recovery tool, or to encourage athletes to look to milk as a way to get the nutrients that they lose after they work out. So for P, remember I have to start with a verb. So encourage milk drinking. Or to encourage someone to refuel with milk. Now we have to look at the second S. So we already did speaker, so now we're going to do subject. So we need to figure out what is 1 to 3 words that are going to summarize this ad. Probably milk leads to refuel, or something as milk as a refueling tool, or milk's nutrients, or milk's refueling possibilities. Last is going to be tone. So I need to figure out the author's purpose or the author's attitude toward this subject. So I need to figure out, what does Body by Milk, let's put this in a different color, what does Body by Milk think about milk as a refueling tool? Well, obviously it has a very positive tone. Maybe it's also an encouraging tone or a motivating tone, right? Showing that you can be just as refueled as Batman is. All you have to do is drink milk. Now you'll see that we used evidence from the text to arrive at all of our elements of SOAPSTone. We used The Dark Knight, we looked at what it said, we looked at what we know about the speaker. We could have also done a lot of analyzing of Batman's face. Does that encourage us or discourage us from wanting to pick up some milk? When we are looking at actual nonfiction texts that are prose or poetry or short stories, whatever it might be, we are going to have text and we're going to have evidence that is in the form of quotes instead of visuals like this. So think about how we're going to collect different quotations from a text, and how can we use those quotations to actually help us figure out all these elements of SOAPSTone. So be sure you finish up your notes template. You're going to submit it to me through Canvas, and then we will continue practicing with SOAPSTone when we get to class. Let me know if you have any questions at all.